In today's video, I'm going to show you how to do some basic work with Fusion just to get you starting off. And I'm actually going to be working with activity 124, one of the blocks. And this is what you have to one of your submissions for online core training. So let's get started here. The first thing you probably want to do when you're opening up Fusion is make sure that you set up your preferences. I have another video that I already recorded. It's also on my YouTube channel. So you're probably going to want to set up your preferences first. Next, once you open up Fusion and you have your preferences all set up, you're probably going to want to start a new project up here. So I would come up to new project, click on new project, give it a name, maybe call it OCT training. And then once you get that folder or project open, I already have one, I call it core training. I'm going to come down and open that up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new folder and I'm going to call this activity 1.2.4. Oh, let me go back and try to fix that. Rename. Turn my numbers on, 1.2.4, there we go. And then I'm going to open that folder up because that's where I want everything stored. Now, to give myself a little bit more room, I'm going to come up here in my data panel, or what we call the waffle. I'm going to close that down. It just gives me more area over here in my canvas or my work area to be able to play with. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up, I'm going to make a new sketch. Okay, so that's the first thing you want to do. Now I'm going to show you some basic tools, and I'm going to show you some what they call 2D constraints. So I'm just going to draw some simple objects. I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to start here at the origin, and I'm just going to start drawing some simple lines like this. So that's just a line tool. I can just draw wherever I want. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to draw a rectangle. Plot my little rectangle, and I come here and make some circles. Okay. And if I want, I can come down here and you can see that I have lines. I have rectangles. I have different types of rectangles. I have different types of circles. I have arcs. I have polygons. I have ellipses. I have all kinds of things that I can be doing down here. And these are my sketch tools, right? These are my sketch tools. One of the things that when you're sketching is you can see these little symbols that are popping up. Okay, I got one there. I got one here. So you're seeing these symbols pop up. What those are these 2D constraints. And we have a bunch of them. We have horizontal and vertical, coincident, tangent, equal, parallel, perpendicular, fixed, midpoint, concentric, collinear, symmetric, curvature, and polygon. I'm going to just show you a couple of those and what they do. So I'm going to go up to perpendicular, and I'm going to click on these two lines. And you can see that puts that little symbol in there. What it's doing is making those two lines perpendicular. I can come back up here and I can go horizontal or vertical, and I can click on one of these lines and I can make that go horizontal. Maybe I want to make this line go vertical, and I'll plop it in. I can come up back up here and I can use some of my symbols. This is tangent. I can make this circle tangent to that rectangle. And there's my little symbol popping up. I can make some things parallel. Let's take this line here and this line here and make them parallel. And you can kind of see my little symbols coming up. I can come up to equal, or I can drop down to my constraints. I can pick equal. And let's make this line and this line also equal. Oh, wow. It really changes things up a little bit. Maybe I'll undo that one. We'll make a couple other things equal. How about if we make this circle and that circle? We'll make those two equal. Okay. So you can kind of see these constraints. Now, the thing you need to watch out for is when you're drawing, and I start drawing these lines, you got to be careful because if I move these little bit, you see how that little snaps right there? What that's doing, and you can see the constraint that's going to show up, that little blue one. Fusion's trying to help you out and saying, oh, you're so close to being horizontal. I think that's what you want. So it's going to kind of snap it in that spot. All right, now if I come down here and I get very close to perpendicular, you'll see, oh, it's giving me that little symbol up in the corner. If you look up very carefully, the symbol's going to appear. It's going to say, oh, I think you want those perpendicular. Right? If I come around here, it might try to make these two lines parallel. So there it is. So now see how that parallel symbol? So Fusion is trying to help you out. Now that's kind of nice when you're drawing, but the thing you have to watch out for that is when you try to start dimensioning, you might get the little error message that says, hey, this dimension will over constrain the sketch, which probably means you or your students have one of these 2D constraints on. So what you're going to want to do with that is you're just going to come over here and delete those constraints. So I come up here and delete that perpendicular constraint. Now I can kind of take those lines and you can see how I can move them around and now they're not perpendicular anymore. So that's one of the things that you want to watch for. All right, so I'm going to kind of clear off my screen. And what I'm doing is I'm just going to click and I'm just going to drag this little goofy shape. And I'm going to hit delete all these. Right? Just grab a shape and delete them all. I'm going to go up and I'm going to make a rectangle. And I always like to start at the origin. You should always get in the habit of starting at the origin and pulling up and to the right. That's going to be the positive in the X and a positive in the Y direction. So I'm just going to draw this little rectangle. And you can see that my lines are, these two are horizontal, these two are perpendicular, or going vertical. So I got a nice little rectangle. Well, if you notice very quickly, I'm going to try that again. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to undo that little rectangle. I'm going to make another rectangle. And you can notice that off to the left, I see 3.324. That's a dimension. So if I need to mention this right off the bat, I can type in 3. Now to get down to that other dimension, I can hit the tab key and maybe we'll make that 4. And that would dimension my object. I'm going to undo that again. I'm going to start at my origin and I'm going to bring my cursor up and I'm just going to put this in here. Now, if you look carefully, I have 2 black lines and 2 blue lines. What that's telling me is those black lines are constrained. I can't move those because when I started on the origin, I went straight up and straight horizontally, it put those lines right on the X and Y axis. So I can't move those. Now these other 2 blue lines, yes, I can. I can move those. So you can see that I can move those in and out. To lock those down, I'm going to come up here where it says dimension. And I'm going to hit my dimension tab. And I'm going to click on that line and I'm going to pull straight up. And maybe I'm going to change that to 4. Now, notice when I changed it to 4, this line over here turned black because now I can't pull it in this direction. I can't pull it left and right. I can still pull this blue one up and down. Let me get out of my command there. Hang on a second. I can grab this blue one and I can move the blue one up and down, but I can't move this one anymore. So to lock this one in, I'll go dimension again, and I'll go from this blue line. Maybe I'll bring it down to that blue line and we'll make that 3. And now you can see that all these are black. That means this sketch is fully constrained. Also, if you notice, there's a light blue tint on this sketch. That means this sketch is fully closed in, which means if it's fully closed in, I can extrude it. So let's try that. Let's go up and I'm going to hit this little, what I call a green check. It used to be green check, but now it's a white check. So I apologize if I say green check, but I'm going to hit this little green check and it says finish sketch. The first thing I want to do is I want to put this in isometric view so you can see what's going to happen. So I'm going to come up to my little view cube and my little house will appear. I'm going to hit my little house and that's going to put me into what they call the home view. I'm going to go over now. If you notice, all my tools up here have changed. They've gone from my sketch tools to my feature tools or my 3D tools. So I'm going to come up to this second one, which is extrude. I'm going to click on extrude. Now, if this is the front of the object, which you should be drawing first, if I bring this out forward in the positive direction, now my sketch here now becomes the back of my object. So the very first time, this is the one little glitch, the very first time that your kids extrude anything, you need to have them bring it back and put it in a negative direction. So I'm going to put this back -2. Okay, so that sketch right there is now still my front sketch. Now, one of the things I mentioned in one of my other videos is if I look down here in the bottom, you can see my timeline is starting to grow. The very first thing I did, if I click on it, there's my sketch. If I finish that sketch, the next thing I did down on my timeline is I did an extrusion. And there's my extrusion. So this timeline is going to start to grow as you create more sketches and more features. So let's do some more stuff with this cube here. Let's do some more extrusion. So I'm going to come up and I'm going to make another sketch. And I can grab one of these planes here, or I can just grab one of the faces of my block. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so I grab the face of my block. I'm going to come up on my block and I'm going to make another rectangle. And I'm going to start at one of the corners. And I'm going to bring this down. Now in this case, I can type in 2 and then I hit the tab key and I can go 2 again. I just made this little square and you can see it's all black, so everything's locked in. I can now go and finish my sketch. It's going to put me back in my home view. I can go back up to extrude, and now I'm going to pick on this block. Now, I can either pick on this shape or this shape. They're both enclosed, so I'm going to pick on this shape. Now, I can either extrude this out, and this is called additive. So if I hit OK, you'll see it. This is called additive. If I back up a step, I can go extrude. I can take this, and you notice when I pulled it outward, it turns blue. Okay, my little thing back here is blue. If I move this back inward, notice how it turns red. This is called subtractive. So I can actually, if I know what the distance is, I can say, oh, that's going to be 2. I can say -2, and it's going to take it all the way back. Or if I didn't know what the dimension is, instead of hitting distance, I can pick all, and it would cut everything out. Or I could pick to an object. I could go down um, our orbit, and I can click to the back of this, and I can say I want it to go all the way to the back. I can do any one of those 3 would work. Right? So that's called subtractive. Let's try a little bit of additive. So I'm going to go back and I'll make a sketch. I'm going to put it on this front face, and I'm going to hold my scroll wheel down, and I'm going to pan this down. That's what I'm doing. I'm actually just holding my scroll wheel down, and I'm bringing this and then moving my mouse and putting this in the middle. I can use my scroll wheel to zoom in and out. So you want to get in the habit of using that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a circle, and we're going to extrude that out. So I'm going to put my circle here. Now, with a circle, there's 3 things I told you had to do. You have to locate a circle by its center point, up and down, left and right, in correct size. So I'm going to go from the center of my circle, and I'll go down to this bottom edge. And I'll say, yeah, that 1.5, that looks pretty good. So now I located it up and down. I need to locate it left and right. So I'm going to go to my center of my circle, that edge, and I'll make that 1.25. I still have to give it the correct size. So now I'm going to click on the outside edge, and I'll make that 1 inch. All right, so now I located my circle, drew a circle, located it up and down, which is 1.5, left and right, which is 1.25, and correct size. All right, let's finish that sketch. Now, if you notice when I'm in sketch mode, we'll go back a little bit. When I'm in sketch mode, you notice that you see my grid, because that was one of the settings I had mentioned in my other video to turn off. If you didn't see it, you're going to come right down here where it says grid settings, and you want to turn off layoff grid, snap to grid, and incremental moves. Right? The reason I do that is because I see the sketch, I see the grid on there, I know I'm in 2D mode. You can see all my tools. I know I'm in 2D mode. The minute I finish that sketch, it goes away, and now notice my tools are in the 3D mode. So that helps me out a lot when I'm looking at other kids' projects. I can come over and immediately see where they are. Are they in sketch or are they in 3D mode? So let's go back up here to extrude. Now I could click on that circle, and again, I could take it inward, and you can kind of see how it turns red. That would be subtractive, or I can bring out, and I'll bring that out like 2 inches. We'll go 2 inches. All right, so there's my little block. So now I just added a little cylinder on the outside. I cut that off this corner. And that's pretty much the real basics, simple things about adding and subtracting. I'm just creating a sketch and putting on there. We're going to get more involved with sketches and extrusions and some of the other features up there, but that's the basics. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do one of the blocks, and I'm going to put it on a title block for you. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to make a new design. I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to pick my XY plane, which is this one back there. So I'm going to make a rectangle. Again, I want to start at my origin. I'm going to bring it up here, and I know that's going to be 3, and I'm going to hit tab, and I'm going to go 3 again. So there's my first block. I'm going to hit finish sketch. I'm going to go to my little house, my little home view. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to go to extrude, and I'm going to extrude this one back a little bit. And I'm going to extrude it back. We're going to go back minus 1.5. And I'm going to hit OK. Right. So there's my block. Actually, this is going to be block 2 for activity 1.24, or block B, whatever they called it. So I'm going to start off with a 3x3 by 1.5 inch block. Next, I'm going to come up and I'm going to make another sketch. I'm going to go right on this front face. And I'm going to bring this down a little bit so you can see. I'm going to make another 2-point rectangle. I'm going to start up in this corner. I'm going to click on the corner. I'm going to bring this down. Now this time I'm just going to click, because I'm going to actually dimension this. I'm going to do a little different. I could have put in 2x2 because those are the dimensions I'm going to use. But I'm going to go up to my little dimension tool. I'm going to click on this line. I'll pull this out, and I want that to be 2 inches. I'm going to click on this line, bring that one down, and I want that one to be 2 inches. Now you can see my sketch. All of my lines are black, so I'm fully constrained. We're going to finish that sketch, go to my home view. I'm going to go to extrude, and I'm going to do subtractive. So I'm going to click on my little square, and I want to bring that back, and I want to bring that half the distance. So I know it's minus 0.75 because that's half of the 1.5. I'm going to cut that out. And notice that it says cut down here. So that's another thing you can check. So I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to go back and I'm going to put a new sketch right here. So I'm going to go new sketch on that face and I'll pan it down. I'm going to make another 2-point rectangle. I'm going to go to this corner. I'm going to bring it down. This time I'm going to put in one. This is what your kids will do. They'll put in one dimension, that first dimension, and then instead of hitting tab, they're going to hit enter. I do it all the time. So what I'm going to do is I put one in. I'm going to have to go back and dimension. I need to go across. So I can go from this line to that line, and I want that one to be 1 inch. That's probably what's going to happen. The kids are going to put one, or you're going to put one, and they're going to hit enter instead of hitting tab. No sweat. You just go up and pick the dimension tool. I'm going to finish this sketch. I'm going to extrude that block, and I'm just going to drag it all the way out. Now, I need to put this on a drawing, so I am going to go up and I'm going to hit save. And I need to give it a name. So I'm going to call this activity 1.2.4 block 2. And we're going to hit save. And you can see where it's going to save. So we're going to hit save. So now that I have my block saved, well, for the activity that you have to turn in, you need to put this onto a drawing. So I'm going to show you how to do that in the same video. So I'm going to go up here where it says design. I'm going to hit that little down menu. Let me hit the down menu. And I'm going to come down here to drawing. I'm going to hit from design. Okay, so my little window opens up. So the first thing is it says from scratch. Okay, so later on, hopefully you're going to create your own title block. So for me, I'm going to look through and here's all the title blocks I have for my schools. I'm going to have to hit browse because I even have more. And I have a folder with title blocks in it. So I have this SHS landscape title block. And I can hit select and it's going to put that in there. If I didn't want that one, I could hit from scratch. That's what yours is going to say. And it should say ASME inches. Now you don't want a B size sheet. You're going to want an A size sheet. So I'm going to do what you're probably going to do because you probably don't have a title block yet. So you want to pick A size sheet. And then you hit OK. Now it's going to take a second or two for your drawing title block to come up. And you can see there it is. So here's my block. And this is my front view. You can see it right here. This is my front view. And that's the first one I want to put in. So I'm going to click that right there and I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to come up here to this icon where it says project view. So we're going to hit project view. I'm going to click on this icon and I'm going to project that straight up. That's going to give me my top view. I'm going to bring this straight over and that's going to give me my right side view. And then I'm going to put it up here and that's going to give me my isometric view. Once I get all those four in, I'm going to right click and hit OK. Now, notice how it started filling out my title block. Hey, it's in this folder, this project folder called Color Training. The name of this block is Activity 124, Block 2. Okay, so you can see all that's in there. If you look down to the bottom, it's made by me and the date. And here's the scale. The next thing I want to do is I want to come up here, and I don't want to see this. I want this to be color. So I'm going to double click that. And once it does, this little window opens up. We're going to come over here and we're going to hit shaded. And then hit close. We want this one to be colored. And this is one that's the isometric view you never want to put dimensions on. So make sure you tell your students that. So now I need to put some dimensions on. So let's go up and find our dimension tool. There it is right there, dimension. Well, the first thing I said to always do on my check sheet is put the overall height, width, and depth. So my overall height would be, I'm going to go grab this corner. I'm going to grab that corner. I'm going to bring my cursor over here. There's my overall height. Right, height, width, my overall width would be from this side, and I can go to this side, and that's going to give me that one right there. Now, if you remember the little rules, actually one more, I got to put my depth in, and my depth could be from here, that one, or it could be up here, either one. Either one wouldn't matter. Next thing I want to do is I want to start looking at my steps. So I go over, down, over. I said over twice, so I need at least two dimensions. So I'm going to get one from this corner to that corner. I'm going to put that in right there. Now I can come over this side. I'm going to go up, over, up. I said up, so I need at least right now two. So I put this one in and this one, and that gives me two dimensions. All right. So that's giving me a couple dimensions, but you know what? I know I put a lot more in there than that. Okay. I know I put a lot more in there. So I need a couple more. All right. I need to know how far back in this goes. So I need to go from here to here, and I need to put that one in. All right. That's going to tell me how wide this cutout's going to be. All right. It's going to tell me how wide that's cutout is going to be. Now, I don't know how far it is from here to here, and I don't know how far it is from here to here. So I'm going to have to put those two dimensions in. So I could probably put one of them from that intersection to that intersection. I know I told you the other day to, hey, try not to dimension to a T intersection, but in this case, we're going to have to. I could put another dimension in from here to here and put that one in. So I could put those in. So now what I want to do is, I think I got all my dimensions in. I'm going to bring this in a little closer. I want to start making sure that this all looks kind of neat. And I know that this does not. So one of the rules is the bigger the number, the farther away from the part it needs to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this. When these gray dots appear, I'm going to grab that gray dot. I'm going to bring that one up. I'm going to click on this one. I'm going to grab that gray dot. I'm going to bring this one down. And I'm going to try to, if I can, get it in the middle. We'll click on this one. I'll bring this one down. All right, so now I have those. Now I want to kind of look. Do these kind of line up going across here and here? I might want to bring this one down a little bit and maybe bring this one a little closer and then maybe this one a little closer. All right, and I think it's pretty good. Maybe I might be able to get this one up in between here. Yep, I can do that. And if I can, maybe I'll bring these in just a little bit closer to kind of neaten up this drawing. And there, I think that's enough dimensions that I got this dimension pretty good. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to make sure I save this. You can give it the same name. It's going to give it a different extension. So I'm going to give the same name as the part. I don't want to go change it. And there's my drawing. Now, the last thing is I want to share this drawing. I need to give this to the teacher or whoever. So what I'm going to do is go up here to export and export as a PDF. And I want to do all sheets. So I'm going to hit OK. And now I want to make sure I save it to my computer. And where I'm going to save it to, yeah, I'll save it in this folder. And then I'm going to hit save. So now that PDF is in that folder that I said. So now if I have to upload it, I can upload it into my submission form. All right. So that is the simple basic stuff on Fusion just to get you started, and hopefully you can get this one block done for your submission. Hope you enjoyed this video.